Hi everyone, I'm Professor Sally Eaves, CEO of Aspirational Futures, and it's my pleasure to host this fireside chat special with Miguel Valdes Faura, who is CEO and co-founder at Bonitasoft, a leading global provider of open source business process management and digital process automation. Welcome to the show, Miguel.
Thank you very much, Ali. A pleasure.
Thank you. Lovely to see you again. So, Miguel, I always love to know a little bit more about the person behind the technology and also how that is reflected in company values as well. And I understand you started your career as a developer. Now, obviously, you're CEO of this globally leading profitable company where open source is very much embedded and very much heart of the DNA. I love your description of that. So, how has this open source DNA been reflected at Bonitasoft, what it stands for, and also the software you're producing too?
Good question, Sally. So actually, there are some core values that comes with open source and that developers use to develop software under the open source DNA, which some examples will be transparency, excellence, meritocracy, in a way how you admire the code that somebody else is producing, collaboration, especially when you're working multiple teams on one particular software. We try to leverage those ones and other values and apply them to the company and how we run Bonitasoft on a single day. So let me give you two examples. One example will be transparency applied to how running a company that is leveraging open source. Everything that we produce, all the content, documentation, resources, white papers, even the product are available for free to download. We don't even ask potential leads to share with us the contact information. So what we want is like people basically adopt the technology at their own pace and only contact us when they are ready. Another example that will be more on excellence value applied to running a company will be our sales methodology. We are using a methodology that we call customer-centric selling, in which what is important to us is to identify a pain that a potential customer may have and try to see if with the product and our services we can bring the accurate value. If we think that we are not providing enough value, we prefer to say no go rather than having a non-satisfied customer, rather than potentially churn a customer after 1 year renewal. No? So those are two examples. We have many others. For example, we run the company making sure that our business is sustainable. So we do as maximum growth as possible while being profitable. So those are three examples and how we apply that on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. So kind of three pillars I was hearing there in terms of democratization of that access, I think is hugely, hugely important. I love the pillar of sustainability. I'm at COP26 at the moment, so that's fantastic to hear. I absolutely love that. But also just that empowerment across all levels of the organization as well. That was really coming across strongly. Fantastic. And kind of going back to your developer roots as well. So you've pointed out that that's where you started from as well. And from that background, a bit like myself, actually, very, very technical in orientation in those development teams. And now as an executive, you'd love to be a citizen developer. I'd love to hear more about that, how that experience is reflected in the way the Bonita platform has been targeted at both professional and citizen developers.
It's actually particularly handy, especially in our market. So we are evolving in the process automation market, which is a market that is also embracing the low-code approach. So a lot of our customers are expecting to use a solution that can be used not only by developers, but also by what the market calls citizen developers, as you know, so people that don't have necessarily those skills. So at some point, people are expecting from us a solution that can be suitable for the two personas, developers and or professional developers, citizen developers. So having an experience on those two worlds is really helpful. And I'm not the only one in the company that also has went from one to the other. So it's important for us to make sure that we do the right specification and we propose a solution that is suitable for different people depending on their skills. No?
That's fantastic. I love that ambidexterity to cater for both. I think that's brilliant. And in your own words, again, I've heard you speak about an authentic approach to low code. So what does that mean for you in practice? And what's the key differences there?
So it's related to what we were discussing about the collaboration potentially between the two worlds. From my perspective in our market, every time that we hear low code, usually that means trying to make sure that business people or non-technical people can be part of a development process. And that's nice. And I think that's, of course, we are hitting that more and more. And that's important. And we also focus on that. But at Bonitasoft, we try to make sure that developers are also part of the low-code approach. So we try to make sure that developers are not put aside, and that also are going to be using low-code technologies. So that's our number one priority, which I think is make us unique in our market, while our competitors are more focused on serving only business personas. And second thing, we are really particularly interested on making that collaboration happening. No, so okay, yeah, it's good to make sure developers are involved in low-code development, but also that they can collaborate with business people. No, so the way we manage to do it is by making a clear separation between what we call visual capabilities or visual programming. So everything that can be done by clicking and basically don't require any professional development skills, versus the point in time in which you need to code. No, so we have clearly separated the capabilities in which you need to code versus the other one that everything can be graphical, and it's all our internal magic to make sure that when a developer is involved and something is developed, that can be bring back to the platform, ensuring governance and maintainability.
So, Miguel, I'd love to explore some examples to really show and bring the Bonita platform to life, and particularly how it's extensible. So, what does that really mean in practice? If I'm a developer, starting a project tomorrow, what would that look and feel like on Bonita?
So extensibility is the mechanism that allows developers to jump in and add their own magic. And so we have defined with Bonita more than 20 different extension points at different levels to allow that to happen. And so let's illustrate that with a banking application. No? I'm a major bank and developing a new service, let's say an onboarding service to allow new customers to get in, or we can apply the same thing to, I don't know, loan management and existing applications. In that particular example, we're going to develop the processes, we're going to develop the UIs, we're going to interact with different systems to create the application and this final solution. And let's imagine that at some point we need to collect some data that is coming from a legacy system. There's a lot of legacy applications still in banks. And for that particular legacy system, there is no API or there is no out-of-the-box connector. No, so a developer can jump in and just implement an interface that has been provided by Bonita, and so add their own custom code, do with all the testing, continuous integration, and then develop that interoperability, and then put it back into the solution. No, that particular connector can be then reused in other apps if needed. So that will be an example of how we can easily add a new custom connector to an existing solution. Other examples of extension points would be, let's imagine on the authentication side of the story, that application is going to be put into production, and we want to configure a custom service, single sign-on service that is the bank is using for all the applications. So that could be another extension point. Other examples could be some UI component is missing in the final UI. We allow a developer using JavaScript to develop that missing component. No, so those are some examples of how developers with different skills can extend the platform, use their own tool to develop, and then put it back into the Bonita.
That's brilliant. Like I say, I love examples. I think you really brought that to life there. That's superb. So, Miguel, thank you so much. I think the final wrap up from me is how really Bonita Soft is enabling this collaboration between both professional and citizen developers. I love the commitment to open source. I think that's fantastic, and really kind of orchestrating interactions, I'd say, across human, system, and robot as well, with this extensible and embeddable open source. So thank you, Miguel. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a great discussion.
Thank you for the time. Pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.